In this video, we're going to discuss AI automation and AI agents. Now, you might at this point be familiar with all the LLM tools like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and being able to chat back and forth with an AI model. But it's not necessarily completing all of your work, and it's not doing it on its own. But you may have heard about the ability for these tools to actually go out and perform work. So let's dive in to understand what AI automation is and what AI agents are. Okay, but before we actually discuss AI automations and AI agents, we need some key terminology. There's something called an API, which has been around for quite some time. This is an application programmable interface. That's what API stands for. So just to explain it differently, this is like you are a guest at a restaurant. You as a customer will make an order for something you want to eat. The waiter, the API, will take that order and bring it to the chef, who will create a wonderful meal for you. Once that meal is done, the waiter will bring that order back to you. This is the same when it comes to an API. The end user will make a request, placing your order. The API, the waiter, will take that information to the cloud or the server, get that data, and send it back through the API, again, the waiter, and it will respond back to the user. Now, the user could also be another software tool as well. This is how different software tools can communicate back and forth through APIs. The mechanism to do that is through an API platform like Make.com, Zapier, N8N, Gumloop, Lindy, or many more. AI automations and AI agents use the power of APIs to connect not just software tools together, but actually also incorporate LLMs to create AI automations or AI agents. Before AI came on the scene, APIs were doing a lot of work. They were passing back structured data between different systems. But there was a big limitation. If you were working with text, you had to figure out keywords, use tags, and you couldn't really interpret or understand the text. It was really just labeling, classifying, and organizing based on rigid keywords. You may have triggered an API by searching for a keyword, tagging some information, and notifying someone in Slack, but you weren't able to interpret, transform, or do much with that information. And then AI came about. So automations are systems that complete workflows that are repetitive and highly structured. So another example is you input a document, AI processes it, and it creates an output. With AI, you were able to, let's say, trigger something in Airtable to query, then actually use an LLM like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, or any of them to transform that information into standing a key hook from a piece of content, then summarizing that content, and then tagging it, sending it back to Airtable, and then sending a notification in Slack. And so that's been very exciting because it's allowed so many new use cases and possibilities. For instance, creating landing page text or a blog post. But of course, AI automations have a little bit of a limitation. Data is structured in a rigid way that is then interpreted and received by the next step. It has to be a structured process. And that's okay because most of business, you do have a step-by-step recipe. But that's not for every situation. That's where AI agents come in. AI agents have actually transformed the limits of AI automations. So what are AI agents? AI agents are able to actually make decisions and adapt to changing circumstances. They can perceive environments, reason about goals, and take actions to achieve those goals. They have memory and continuously learn. For example, you could have a complex query where a customer support agent needs to find customer information and then query the knowledge database to respond effectively, all using the AI agent's analysis and understanding to determine which knowledge it should pull, which database it might require, and how to create a response that's highly personalized. An AI agent may look a lot more like this versus a rigid process. You would give the AI agent some level of instructions compared to our previous example with the hook, summary, and tag going back and forth in Airtable and then notifying in Slack. You would first trigger the AI agent, then it would use its instructions to determine which step it should take, what decisions it should make, and when. It would be connected to some memory, which would be a database, an LLM like ChatGPT or Claude, and then it would use these things called tools, which is, in this case, Airtable and Slack. These would be other software tools as well. Based on the instructions in the AI agent, it would utilize all of these different tools and decide how to coordinate them together based on that prompt, and then ultimately return your notification or output in Slack. Of course, you can structure this in so many different ways. And all of these can be built, again, with an AI platform like N8N, Lindy, Zapier, and even Make. So what are the key differences between AI automation and AI agents? AI automation has a lot less autonomy because it follows a very structured, predefined path, versus an agent can actually decide how it should proceed, how many feedback loops it should take. Next, with the scope, AI automation is best suited for very specific tasks. An example where an agent might make more sense is doing research for a marketing campaign, compiling different information, and generating some kind of post. When it comes to complexity, AI automation, again, follows very structured processes, so lower complexity is actually best because if you have to start branching, it can be challenging, and making many decisions on which paths it should take can make an automation very large and complex, which is very challenging to maintain and set up and ensure that it's actually following all the proper processes that you want to see happen. Versus an AI agent can actually deal with a lot more uncertainty. AI agents are adaptable and AI automations are not. AI automations stay in their preset format and structure, whereas agents can actually reorganize, adjust, and learn. When it comes to human insight, AI automation is pretty predictable, so you know what you're going to get, and you don't need as much supervision once you've tested most of your edge cases. Of course, there are things that can break or things that you don't always expect, but for the most part, you can leave it running without constantly needing to supervise. However, with AI agents, things can get a little bit unpredictable, and so it is important to think through how you're structuring it and when a human is going to be checking its work to make sure it's actually having the outcome you anticipate. And finally, when it comes to decision making, AI agents are great at making decisions where AI automation is just following very specific rules. So when should you use AI automation versus when should you use AI agents? AI automation is best for repetitive, well-defined tasks with specific processes and clear rules where you can say this is a yes or no decision, and you need efficiency and speed. So this is everything from document processing, data entry, scheduled reports, and content filtering. On the other hand, you should use AI agents when you need some level of judgment in a task, you need to make decisions, or you need it to adapt to some kind of changing circumstance. And this is best for when you have tasks that require decisions or judgment, you have processes involving uncertainty and variability, and they require multiple considerations and need to adapt to new situations. Examples for AI agents include complex customer service inquiries, research and knowledge assistance, resource optimization problems, and personalized recommendations. There are practical considerations when choosing which approach to take. So from a resource requirements, you're going to understand and know that how much an AI automation is taking up in terms of tokens when you're calling your APIs. You're going to have a clear understanding of what the input versus the output. AI agents rely a lot more on the AI toolset, and so it's going to take up a lot more resources because it's going to be calling the AI more. Additionally, AI automations can sometimes be easier to set up, but actually not always. So even though this is suggesting that implementation complexity is much more complex for agents, that's just because you need to really consider what those edge cases are, but sometimes it's easier to rely on an AI agent. It really just depends. In most circumstances, you can actually incorporate both, where you have certain parts of a workflow that's highly structured and predictable, while also utilizing an AI agent to add decision-making, complexity, or variability. Combining these depends on the workflow. When it comes to AI agents and AI automation, it depends on what your goal is and what you're trying to achieve. There's also multiple ways to achieve the same outcome. It's considering the different trade-offs of how predictable you want something to be and what kind of functionality you actually need, and sometimes if there's any resource constraints or a budget. The key takeaway for choosing between AI automation and AI agents is that automation excels at handling repetitive, well-defined tasks with clear rules and minimal decision-making, while AI agents are better for complex situations that require judgment, adaptability, and decision-making in more uncertain or variable environments. But of course, the most effective approach is just combining both. And AI agents are becoming easier to build as time goes on because most of the LLM providers, all the AI platforms are just making them even more accessible for even non-technical people. We'll be providing a bunch of different examples and step-by-step tutorials on how to build AI automations and agents. Drop a comment below if there's a certain automation, process, or agent that you want to see built or see out in the wild. Thanks so much for watching. See you in the next one.